presentation mode for a second. All right, let's try it now. Yeah, take out of presentation mode for a second. All right, yeah, 1 second. All right, now I'm going to go now. Is it asking me? No? Okay, now we're presentation mode. There you go. Wait. Good evening, everyone. Jen, we're good to go? All right, thank you so much. How's this sound, okay? Is this sound okay out there? Wonder if I can take this off. All right, thank you so much. Good evening again. My name is Rick Ledwith. I'm our town manager and very pleased to welcome all of you to our second public information meeting on our speed enforcement camera program. Also a big thank you to WHCI TV who is streaming this as well. So hello to everyone watching from home. Before I start, I just wanted to send some regards from our mayor. Unfortunately, she could not be with us this evening, but she wanted me to share her express gratitude to folks, all of our community, really, essentially, for your engagement, not just in the speed enforcement camera program that we are talking about and have been talking about, but our Vision Zero action plan overall. Our goal will be to continue to work very hard with our community to make our streets safer. Also want to do some quick introductions from our team this evening. We have our counselor, Deb Poland, with us this evening as well. Thanks, Deb, for joining us again. We have our police department represented in the back of the room. We have Chief Riddick, Assistant Chief Terra, and Captain Vapiades. We have our community development team. We have our director, Dwayne Martin, off to my right over here, and Parker Sorensen, our engineer. Renee McHugh, our public relations division, is here as well. I think she's out at the table. So thank you, Renee, for being here as well. And we have our consultants from VHB and VN who will be presenting tonight as well. And collectively, this team has been working very hard together over the last several months, working with our community as well to design a plan that we look to be rolling out in 2026. So I just want to start by doing a quick recap of what we talked about at our first meeting just about a month ago. So we were very fortunate to have received a Safe Streets for All grant from the federal government, and that is allowing us to implement a speed enforcement camera program here in town. So we will have the ability through that program to roll out a maximum of 15 cameras throughout our town. And with that, in that same meeting, we were gathering information from our community. So at that point, we were talking about our plan and seeking information from our residents in terms of where would be a good location for this camera to be located here in town. So We have taken that information along with other data that we've accumulated over the last several weeks, and we will be presenting this evening the locations for those 15 cameras. We'll also have 5 extra locations that we will include in our presentation this evening. And what we would like to do at the end of our presentation is receive feedback from our community about those locations. And we will do that through a Q&A portion of our process this evening, and I'll be available. Our team, Police Department, Community Development, along with our consultants, will be here to help with that portion. So from there, we would present a draft of our plan to our Community Planning and Economic Development Committee, which is a subcommittee of our town council. So we will present that plan on September 17th. We will receive feedback from that committee. We will finalize the plan, and then we will present the final plan to our town council as a whole for their adoption on September 29th. At that point, we will submit the plan to the Connecticut State Department of Transportation. And we would expect and hope to receive approval from the state sometime in October, later in the month potentially. At that point, we would submit the plan to Federal Highway Administration. As I mentioned, the grant we received is a federal grant. So in West Hartford, we actually need approval from the state DOT as well as the Federal Highway Administration. So we would hope to receive that as we move through the rest of the calendar year 25. So, and as we talked about in that first meeting, this is really an important part of our Vision Zero plan, which I think by now hopefully folks have heard a lot about, talked a lot about it that evening, and we will continue to do that as we move through the next several years. And in that meeting back in July, I talked about the 3 big E's of Vision Zero. Our plan actually has 6 E's, but the big 6 are enforcement. And that's what a speed enforcement camera program is going to help us do. And that will supplement what we're currently doing on our streets today. So it doesn't replace officers, it supplements the work that our officers are doing today. And I think I mentioned this last month. Our chief refers to this plan as the force multiplier. It really is going to give us the opportunity to really spread our resources throughout the town to really step up enforcement, continue to step up enforcement, and keep our streets safe through that method. I do want to quickly mention a little bit about enforcement. Our police department has done a phenomenal job of stepping up enforcement over this past summer. Last August of 24, we had just under 400 motor vehicle stops in town. This August of 25, we had over 800 motor vehicle stops. So doubled our efforts from last August to this August. So I really do appreciate the effort of our police department to continue their efforts at keeping our community safe. The other big E is education. And I think folks, if you're on our listserv, you're receiving our emails. We've sent out 35 different communications this summer about Vision Zero, about the things that we're doing around town. We will continue that education effort as we move forward. And then the third of the big E is engineering. And anyone who walked here or rode their bike here or drove here, witnessed right out here on Sedgwick the impact that engineering is having on our streets and keeping people safe. So those are the 3 big E of our Vision Zero plan. We will continue those efforts as we move forward, and as we've talked about, and hopefully you've heard, our goal is to get to 0 fatalities and 0 serious injuries as a result of traffic crashes within 10 years, but we want to do it much sooner than that. So with that said, I'm going to pause there and turn things over to our consultants, and we'll start with Kevin Ortiz from VN Engineering, and then he will introduce Joe Balskis as well. And then when they're done with the presentation, as I said, our entire team is here to answer any questions that you folks may have. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rick. So for tonight's agenda, I'll go over some NEPA and Title VI information. I'll go do an overview of the program, just reiterate what Rick talked about earlier. We'll quickly go over what the first public meeting entailed, the public comments. I'll give you a project updates where we are today. We'll also go over the proposed locations and talk about the next steps, and we'll end the meeting with a Q&A session. So I have to read this word for word. In accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act and the Americans with Disability Act, the Town of West Hartford ensures that no person is excluded from participation in, denied the benefits of, or subjected to discrimination under any program or activity. Civil rights information can be found at portal.ct.gov/dot/equity/Title VI. This project is expected to qualify for a categorical exclusion under NEPA, meaning no significant environmental impacts are anticipated. Public feedback will help identify any additional concerns for evaluation. Comments received during and after this meeting will be documented and reviewed as part of the decision-making process. Email feedback to vision0@westhartfordct.gov. So as Rick mentioned, the Town of West Hartford received a grant for Safe Streets for All, which started this program. They got the town ordinance adopted in April of this year, and we're currently working on this ATESD plan, which is required to be submitted to NEPA and OSTA. NEPA is required because it is federally funded. If you want any more information, FAQs, or the summary of what happened last meeting, we do have brochures out in the front. Feel free to grab as you walk out. So during the first public meeting, we discussed the background and purpose of this program. Ultimately, it's to reduce speeds and speed-related crashes. During that time, we also talked about the initial screening process, all the factors that went into it, such as vulnerable road users, school zones, pedestrian zones. That screening process then developed the initial list, and then during that time, we also solicited public comment. We got 16 individuals that commented during the public meeting. We encouraged further comments through email. As of today, we have 26 that we have. We're starting to get back to them as well. And as questions come in or comments, we'll update our FAQ that lives on the Vision Zero website. We want to encourage you guys to continue sending in your feedback, as it's very important to this process. As of today, after the first public meeting, we conducted a second location screening, which took in public input into consideration and other factors that we'll go into here shortly. They also developed the proposed locations. We'll show that again shortly. And we're here today for the second public information meeting. Some ongoing work is still screening. We're still going to conduct more screening. With that screening, we'll finalize the list and then do a final public meeting to the town council for their approval. With that, I'll pass it on to Joe to discuss the proposed locations.
Thanks. Thanks, Kevin. Try and put it here. Sorry. Hi, Joe Balskus from VHB. We were presenting at the first public information meeting back in July, where we had an initial list of screening locations, and we talked about the various factors that were involved, from the speeding related crashes as a primary driver for us in terms of screening, the volumes, the school zones, went through that, and the pedestrian areas. And we developed that initial list of screening, like the first 3 steps of the screening process. What the screening process is, a little background, is we use a geographic information system technology that allows us to pull together all the data from the town's data, from the state data, from crashes, volumes, speeds, all kinds of data. We assemble that into a GIS database, and we map it, as you're seeing here. And that's what we showed at the last meeting. So it's an intelligent map, gives us all sorts of information, allows us to very quickly screen roadways for the entire town for this data, and quantify those roads in terms of the highest number of speed-related crashes, the highest number of speeding citations. All the data we've compiled for this, we've screened that and put into an application using a geographic information system application we developed. So as we presented at the first meeting, that was the map we showed at the first meeting. You see there's a lot of streets there. We had a board of that as well. And we've then taken the comments, as Kevin mentioned, and we did some more steps in our screening process. and we basically refined it with more data. We did some adjustments as we're going through this process. We looked at the results, we talked to the town staff, and we looked at the methodology. Should we make some changes to it to refine it, to come up with some adjustments where we wanted to include open space, we wanted to include school crossings, school safety areas, parks obviously, Vision Zero focus areas that was been developed by the town. We also added some proximity to worship, where pedestrians are going to be active along the roadway. So we've added those into our screening process. So again, further screening down the list of locations that a speed camera can be presented at. And we use that technology to do that. And in terms of our staff, to my team, I'm going to have Dan Imps that's going to talk about it. He's a senior planner with us. He did a lot of his GIS application analytics to let us get to it, further screen it from another step 4, step 5, to finish our final list of locations. Dan, you want to come up?
Thanks, Joe. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Amstutz. I'm a senior transportation planner with VHB. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the last 3 steps that we took for this screening process. So as Joe mentioned, we kind of refined the list that we had from the first public meeting. This is an iterative process going through this methodology, so understanding that we came out with a list of different locations, and then we went through a few other steps to kind of, again, get down to what are the best places, or the places that we identify where a speed camera location would be most beneficial to slowing people down, to reducing speeding-related crashes, injuries, and so on. So the next step that we took, we're calling step 4, is we got traffic citation data from the police department of the town of West Hartford. And what you're seeing up here with these little red dots, they've got little exclamation points in the middle, are showing places where the police have actually stopped somebody and given them a speeding-related ticket of some kind, or citation. And so we took that list that we had, and we matched up those different segments of roadway that we created, and attributed these different citation locations to that, so we can understand where are the locations where the police are already out there, or they're already doing a lot of enforcement, and where are the places that there's clearly a lot of speeding that's happening on that roadway. So you can see up here, this is sort of the east side of the town, and essentially more citations in a segment leads to a higher score in our screening process. And so that's how we kind of ranked things, was a segment would get a score over time as it moves through the process. So we took this data from the police, and then we also have data that the engineering department had been collecting on, they're collecting speed data, as also volume data on different roadways within the town over the last few months to get some up-to-date data for this year on where's speeding happening around the town, to actually get that fine-grained data where they'd take, collect speeding data over a course of a couple of days. And so this really helped us identify those locations of where there are high numbers of speeders. We're really looking at places where there's people that are going 10 miles an hour or more over the speed limit, since that is part of the speed camera, looking at the ticketing that it goes along with that. Where is there already a high number of people that are going well above the speed limit as of now? And we gave points to those segments, to say those are more important or more high ranking if you have a lot of people that are already going well above the speed limit. So that was the step 5 as part of our process, is to give those locations that are nearby those sort of extra points in the ranking. And then the last piece that we did is looking at other considerations. Again, this was part of our feedback and back and forth with the town, was understanding where are there already some projects that are happening. We actually looked at a potential location here on Sedgwick Road right in front of the school here. But when we talked to the town, they pointed out that there had been, as we've seen outside, there's already been some recent changes, some tactical improvements that have been made out on the road. So it didn't really make sense. Want to see that, see that the those improvements are making a change to the way people are driving. And it's all part of the town's strategy to not just have the speed cameras, but also these physical improvements that are changing the way that people are interacting and getting around the town. Again, slower, safer, so that we get to that goal of zero fatalities, zero serious injuries. So again, we talked to the town, looked at these different projects and said, okay, well, if there's a project that's recently been done or is upcoming, we know there's going to be some speed humps here or some other type of traffic calming improvement, then we're going to hold off on putting any type of speed camera in that location. The other thing that we had to look at was what's called a qualified census tract, and there are, based on census data, there are different areas of the town where they'd be a little lower income or minority areas, and as part of the state's guidance on this, that you can only have no more than two ATESD devices, like a speed camera or a red light running camera. You can only have two of those within a qualified census tract, again, as an equity component, so they're not overburdening those particular communities. So we also had to look at that as well. There are a few in the town that we had to, again, be aware of when we were citing these locations so that they were spread out. This is the map of our proposed speed camera locations, our final list here. There is a handout that was at the front, as well as two very large maps that we have at the front that has this same map on it. I'm going to go through it over the next couple of minutes, going through which locations we're talking about. I won't go through every single one in detail, but just point out where they are and some overview. So one of the things that we were looking at was a geographic dispersion of these around the town, again, so that one area isn't particularly overburdened over another. And this also matches up with the screening process that we did. So there's justification for each of these locations. There's 15 that we have in red up here, maybe a little hard to see, but those 15 are what we have as sort of the top ranked ones that the town would like to look at first. And then we have 5 additional ones that are in purple that are backup locations. If there's an issue with one of those top 15 that doesn't work out, there's a sighting issue, there's a right-of-way issue, there's something else that makes it infeasible in order to put a speed camera there, then we would look at one of those backup locations. Another thing that, again, is part of this sort of geographic dispersion, so it's not sort of overburdening a single road or single community, is the town asks that we look at only 2 locations per roadway. So there's only, none of these roads will have more than 2 in this initial pilot program that the town has. And I do want to point out that there are a number of these segments that you see. Some of them are very long, some of them are a little bit shorter, but there'd only be one speed camera location, going 2 directions that would be within that segment, but it's giving us a little bit of flexibility to say, where would we site this within here? That's something that we will get down and get into the kind of nitty gritty of as we go in the next couple of weeks to the town council to present the draft plan. So just zooming in a little bit here, again, you've got the handouts and the larger maps, but this just goes over the roadways that we have. This is the northern half of the town, and you can see the red roadways include Albany Avenue, which has 2 proposed locations. Again, there's a very long segment, sort of squiggly line that's on the west side, west of Mountain Road. And so there's a lot of speeding and a lot of speed-related crashes that are in there, but we have to look at it very closely to see where you would site a speed camera, sort of within that wide area. We have Mountain Road. We also have 2 proposed locations on Mountain Road, North Main Street, King Philip Drive, Troutbrook Drive. There's actually 2 on Troutbrook. There's one that's on the other map that I'll show in a moment. Bloomfield Avenue, Fern Street, and Farmington Avenue. And the alternate roadways, or backup roadways as we're calling them, are on Simsbury Road and on North Main Street, but north of Fern Street, so a little bit further to the south. The south half of the town here shows a few of the other ones, again zoomed in on Trout Brook Drive, as that was the second one, South Main Street, Flatbush Avenue, New Britain Avenue, and then again our alternate or backup roadways on Farmington Avenue, west of Mountain Road. You can see a kind of long purple line that's up there. Prospect Avenue on the line with West Hartford and Hartford, and then South Main Street closer to the Newington town line. And then we have a few, these are just a few slides showing the list of the locations in more detail. Again, telling you, if you can't see it from the map itself, this again gives you the segments, sort of which intersection to which intersection we'd be looking at for putting a speed camera in between those two intersections. And a few of these are also on state roadways, so you have to take that into consideration as well. But many of them are on local roadways. This is the other sort of half of the 15 primary locations that we're talking about. Again, 2 on Mountain Road, 2 on New Britain Avenue, North and South Main Street, and 2 on Trout Brook Drive. And then finally, these are the backup locations that we have. Again, if one of the primary locations in the top 15 doesn't work out for some reason, we would look at one of these backup locations. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to VN to close things out for our presentation here.
All right, so the next steps in this program is to finalize the list. We'll take in more input after today and discuss with the town. We'll also finalize the ATSD plan. When those two are finalized, we'll go to the town council to present and look for approval. Once we got the approval from the town council, we'll submit to OSTA and NEPA for their approval. That's what's anticipated for the rest of this year. Going on into next year, the town is looking to install the first camera by mid-2026. Now, this 18-month program doesn't start with what we've been doing now. It starts once the first camera is operational. During that time, they're going to collect data to see if they should extend this program. And if they do, they have up to 3 years with the OSTA approval. After 3 years, they would have to go back out to get approval, and follows the same process all over again. So now we're in the Q&A session. I'd like to remind everybody that if you have any comments or questions after today's meeting, please email it to vision0@westhartfordct.gov. For the comment portion of this, we did take down some people's names who wanted to leave a comment, so we'll go in that order first. We do ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes per question to allow everybody time to speak. Please speak directly into the mic so that the interpreters can understand clearly. And just a reminder that all comments and questions are going to be recorded and posted online later. With that, the first speaker is Stephen B. If you can come up to one of the mics and ask your question or comment. Stephen or Stephen B. Yeah, you could, right there. Yep, 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 yep.
Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Blanchfield, better known around town as Coach, or to my beloved students at Hall, Coach Blanch, all right? First of all, I want to thank the town manager, Rick Ledwith, or Mayor Sherry Cantor, and Chief Reddick for all their work on this. This is a program where it's not a question of if we need it, it's a question of when, and the time is now. All right, and I've been thinking about this, when someone gets hit and dies, what happens is there's a gathering the next day of friends and family, the TV cameras come out there, and then everyone kind of disperses until the next one, and we kind of get numb by what happens, okay? And I just wanted to share with you quickly a hurt in my heart that I've had for 30 years, and what I tell you is exact. 30 years ago this month, we lost our father to an event that we're trying to prevent. On September 18th, 1995, a beautiful Monday, I came home from Hall football practice as my father was getting ready to leave the house to go to the first Hartford Whaler game of the year. He told my mother that he was leaving for the game. He'd be back right after the game. My mother said, enjoy the game. He went to the game. The Hartford Whaler game started at 7, At 9:30, he got out of his seat to leave the Hartford Civic Center. At 11 minutes after 10 o'clock, he was declared dead at St. Francis Hospital. And what happened at 9:30, by eyewitness accounts, he was crossing the street in front of the Hartford Civic Center. And he was in the walkway when a drunk driver went through a red light at a high rate of speed, hit my father in the walkway, and did not stop. There were no brake marks at the scene. He then accelerated away. So he was drunk, went through a red light, speeding, hit a pedestrian in a walkway, and left the scene of the accident. We were obviously called down to St. Francis Hospital, where after a short while, a doctor and a police officer came out to see me and called me away from my mom. And the doctor apologized and said, "Steve, I did my best. He was hurt too bad. I couldn't save him. He's gone." The police officer told me, "Steve, this is now a criminal case, and I'm going to take over." And he told me something that, he said, "I knew your father. To every game he went to, he's the only person ever who would come to me every game and tell me how my day was, how you doing, and thank me for the work I was doing. I'm going to be the lead person in this criminal case." Just like that, I lost my father and my best friend. My sister and brothers would say the same thing. My mother lost her loving husband, grandchildren lost a loving grandfather, and in addition to that, Hall High lost their biggest advocate. The kids loved him so much. And between the administration, teachers, coaches, kids, and parents, they instituted the William E. Blanchfield Award that they still give out to a boy and girl every year. And on top of that, the town of West Hartford honored him for all of his contributions to the town through academics, education, business, and everything else. And everyone always loves a story. For 40 years, every single day, for 40 years, my father raised and lowered the flag in Elmwood for the good people of Elmwood. And just like that, he was gone. And in closing, I just want to say to Chief Riddick, Rick Ledwith, and everyone else, if this program saves one life and one family from going through what we've gone and the heartache I've had for 30 years, it will be successful. So thank you very much for your efforts. I fully support it, and thank all of you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. The next person is Chris Floyd.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Coach. That was moving. My name is Chris Floyd. I live in West Hartford, or specifically, I live in Elmwood. I live directly on New Britain Avenue. We moved there 25 years ago, very close to the Sarah Whitman Hooker House, which is one of your red zones, right there between Cortland and Vine. When we bought the house, we knew we were on a major street. That was no surprise to us. But our kids were young. They grew up through our school system. They went to Walcott. They went to this fabulous establishment we're in right now. And sorry, Coach, Conard. But, you know, they were growing up knowing the dangers of living on a busy street. Thankfully, the West Hartford Police Department kept us as safe as they possibly could. But they know all too well the accidents that happen literally outside of my house on a regular basis. Because it's a two-lane street, especially going downhill. There's no consideration that this is a residential neighborhood. We literally put our lives in our hands every day, pulling in and out of our driveway with trucks, semis, cars barreling down behind us. No concept to the fact that we actually live there and we want to be safe. The police department can only do so much, and they've done an amazing job. This is a fantastic program. We're very happy to see that our street is on there. It's well known to be a bit of a drag strip. Again, we're eyes wide open. We know that we live in a busy street, but it's got worse and worse as people have just really have no concept of how to drive safely, especially in residential zones. So thank you very much. Thank you for your efforts. It can't happen soon enough, and you know what? If we get some revenue out of it, even better. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chris. Next person is Michelle J.
Hi. I'm just going to start this off by saying I'm a horrible public speaker. I did have a question. Can I ask a question during this time? All right, so let me start off by saying West Hartford resident. I live on Robin Road, which happens to be right near 3 major streets that look like red zones. Trout Brook is on one side of me, Farmington's on the other, and then Fern is on the other. My daughter is a 10-year-old at Morley Elementary. We're a one-car family, so we bike a lot. And I echo the gentleman before me's sentiment that I know that we were sort of in a busy area. I mean, Robin Road is a residential road. We do have some cut through, but I've just watched over the years how the streets by us, like Trout Brook, especially now with the Trout Brook Trail and crossing, it's just gotten more and more dangerous. I can't tell you how many times I've crossed over to the trail from Fern to Trout Brook and then from there over Farmington and almost got hit by people running red lights. I have to teach my daughter, like, do not move until you actually see everyone stopped. And those are good safety things. But at the end of the day, the fact that I've almost gotten hit multiple times, like, that's just a testament to, like, how bad it is. So I'm happy to see that you guys are targeting the area. I did want to know, there was a red zone, it's Farmington to Fern. What does that mean? Like, what are the implications for the speed camera that's going to be in that area? Is it going to be Fern and Farmington, Farmington and Trout Brook? I didn't quite understand, so that's my question to you.
It's to be determined.
Okay, so I'm here to advocate then that we 100% need a speed management camera, especially with all the developments that are going in and more people and families using those trails. Having a speed camera at Trout and Fern is so important. I cannot tell you how many times I see people running the red lights. I get like wafted with air, you know, and I'm scared to let my 10-year-old cross the street to go to the other side of the neighborhood or even to go alone on the Trout Brook Trail because it's so dangerous. So I'm here to advocate for that. I also think Farmington and Trout Brook is a really bad intersection, but I don't think the speed gets as intense until people start ramping up over there. So that's it, just advocating for my area. Thank you. And thank you for the good work that you're doing.
Thank you, Michelle. And the last person on my list is Peter H. Peter H. No? Well, if Peter H. is not here, if anybody else would like to leave a comment, just come up to one of the mics and say your first and last name. Come up to the comment.
Hi, my name is Todd. Is this on? Good. My name is Todd Hansen. I live over on Spring Lane, and I have a comment and a question. So first of all, Coach B, when I was 8 years old, I was hit by a car. It was a neighbor. He was late for work. So these are not no-name people. These are us. I don't have the privilege of driving. I never have. I'm legally blind. My vision is 20/300. So I rely on my beautiful wife to drive me everywhere, which is great. I stand out here every day and with Michael, the old crossing guard, and Janice and the rest of them, and I watch what goes on with Sedgwick Road. I disagree with your map. I'm sorry, I think we need more than just the plastic cones out here. But I am absolutely a huge advocate in favor of this program, and instead of 18 cameras or 15 cameras, I would like 180 cameras. So here's a couple of questions. One has to do with the zone of coverage. I know from friends who drive and everything else that people through through Waze figure out where these things are. They slow down, they speed back up, right? Or they pull the end around where they find an alternate route. And I know this because of the Duffy Loop, the infamous Duffy Loop of speeding that goes through Duffy after people drop their kids off at Duffy School. But people cut down from Ridgewood Road, they come down to avoid the lights. Is there future development of this program that's going to help prevent end-arounds and or just, I know where the speed camera is, I'll slow down, I'll speed back up? That's number one. Second question is, I love the traffic impediment out here. Like I said, I've stood out here since 1993 taking the public bus every day. And one of the biggest fears in crossing this road of mine, because I have to cross it every day when I get off the outbound bus, either we're coming down Farmington Avenue and walking up or this side of Sedgwick, was the cars, a nice polite car will stop and another one will just go like this, and I'm crossing in front of him, right? So you've got now the barrier out there, and I think you called it a pedestrian respite or something like this, but those are no better than rubber cones. They're not cement, they're not protective, and I think they give a false sense of security to a pedestrian. So when will you replace those with something more permanent? I think those are my two questions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just happy I didn't trip on the cords. Dwayne Martin from the Town of West Hartford, Director of Community Development. So I'll answer your questions the best I can. So first of all, we did have a camera planned for Sedgwick Road. That was one of the ones that made the initial list for all the reasons that you've mentioned. However, we in the engineering division have a project plan for Sedgwick Road. I'll go into that in a second. So what you see out there was quick build projects that we wanted to implement because one, they're quick, two, they're fairly inexpensive, and they can address some of, but not all of the issues, but it was something that we could do while we are designing a project for Sedgwick Road. So we received a grant for Sedgwick Road to do some traffic calming improvements like you're seeing in other parts of town, but it's a much bigger project. It's not just isolated to one location. We did have a public info meeting to discuss that, and there's information that we can get to you. It should also be on our engineering webpage as we continue along with the process. But the project will include measures to slow down traffic. We have raised crosswalks and other measures embedded in that design. So like Sedgwick Road, there are other roads that were initially selected for a speed camera, but we opted not to include them in the program knowing that we were going to have other measures planned to change the roadway to slow traffic. It doesn't make sense to put a camera if we know we're going to have a raised crosswalk in summary. Your other question with regards to what happens when people get past the camera, or can they go around the speed camera and then just it diminishes the benefit of having it. That is a concern. We have a nice grid transportation network in part of West Hartford, so that is a possibility. But we are assuming that these locations will definitely be beneficial. This is the initial plan that we're going to put to the state for the locations. That doesn't mean that's it. We're done. These are the only locations. We're assuming they're going to be successful, and we have the 5 backup ones as an example, and we can submit another plan to the state if they are not successful and we want to explore other locations. But you also have to keep in mind, we're going to continue with our traffic calming program. We still have the police, of course, doing enforcement around town. There's other measures, education. There's other ways of addressing some of the traffic safety issues that we have, and those efforts are going to continue on. Everywhere where we have a raised crosswalk or some form of traffic calming, we don't necessarily need to have a police officer there. So they can focus on other areas, and the same goes with these speed cameras. However, we did have this conversation with the police, your exact concern. Somebody's just going to speed up after they get through the camera location. What do we do? Some people may not care about the fine. You know, it's not big enough, they don't care. The police are aware of that, and they are prepared. They will be out in locations to combat that. So be warned that if you're going through the area, it's because we have a problem, and that doesn't mean the police are just going to avoid doing enforcement on that roadway. Especially the roadways that are 4-lane, like you mentioned. Those are a little bit more inviting for people to speed. So we have a lot to get through to get this program up and running, but we are aware of some of those concerns. I do want to point out, though, I think this was mentioned in the first public info meeting. I don't know that we mentioned it here. Unfortunately, one of the requirements of the state is that we have to make the apps for the camera locations known. So that is a piece of this plan by the state, so Waze and some of those others. We're not trying to surprise people. This is not a revenue generation. There will be revenue, but that's not the point. It's traffic safety. So we want to make people aware where these cameras are, and they can't say that they didn't know. So hopefully I've answered your questions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rosie Stanko. I'm just curious as to how many fatalities were there last year in West Hartford? Traffic fatalities.
Rick, do you want to?
In 2024, we had 3 fatalities on our streets, and in 25 so far, we've had 2. We had 2 in early June within 7 days of each other.
Thank you.
Great. Comment?
Good evening. My name is Ed Burlett. I live at 502 Troutbrook Drive, right across from the trail. I've already talked to a couple people tonight, and they've listened, and I appreciate that. But something's got to be done around where I live. I live between the Elm Drives and between South Quaker near Beachland Park all the way to Park Road. There's nothing to slow down the traffic. And there's a crosswalk at Jackson and Troutbrook where people cut across to go to the trail. By the time they cross that road, cars are already going 45, 50 miles an hour. There's nothing from Park Road all the way down to South Quaker, Beachland Park. We need a camera around there. We don't need one around Memorial Drive because there's so many lights around there. People can't build up their speed. And they narrowed my road around where I live. I can't even park in front of my house no more after 33 years. I got to park on Elm Drive every day. We need better police enforcement. I've called there. They want to park in my driveway. I can't even park in my own driveway half the time. It's suicidal to try to get out anytime during the day. So I hope they can do better enforcement. I told them they should park on Elm Drive. They could fund this whole program if they were out there for a week solid. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jesse Samuels, and I've actually written to several of you and have had very productive, detailed replies, which I appreciate very much. And I applaud all these efforts. I think they're excellent. I have a couple of questions. One is, traffic has gotten a lot worse in town, and I am very fearful with the new buildings that are nearing completion that it will get even much more worse. So another piece of stopping speeders is there any way to make our roadways more efficient so that people can get by obstructions that are changeable? So one small example is if you're going south on King Philip before it comes Troutbrook at Albany Avenue, there's a left-hand lane, a middle lane, and a right-hand lane. So if somebody going straight ahead is in the rightmost lane, they hold up everybody behind them. So that's one example of where changing some arrows on the road and maybe a sign could improve traffic. And I think that maybe if people weren't held up in so many ways, there might not be as much speeding. That's my first question and suggestion. The second issue is I don't see any enforcement of signals, people not using their car signals for turning. And I think that that's a very important safety feature. And in fact, yesterday evening I was behind a police car that made a turn without signaling. So I would just ask if, Chief, if that could be included in their job, the police department, who I think are great.
Great, thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Matt Mascardi. I'm at 109 Waterside Lane. Look, I think I'll say that this effort is fabulous, and I think a good solution means someone's always angry, right? So like I don't feel like we're missing anything, except I do want to put just out there, and I've written with some of you back in 2022, actually, Tunxus, which is, so on Waterside, we're on a dead-end lane. We don't have a traffic problem per se, but cars coming up and down Tunxus are going really fast. In fact, we were told that it was artificially low in terms of the speed limit. It should be 35. It's actually set at 25, but 25 isn't enforced because it should be 35. And we did back of the envelope calculations at just where on Waterside where we live, looking down towards Farmington on Tunxus, you have about a car going 36 miles an hour has about 80 feet of stopping before they would see, because there's trees around the bend, so it's a blind turn before they would see an oncoming car. Or a person crossing, they wouldn't see them. They'd have about 50 feet of stopping and they need 80. So we did like back of the envelope calculations and realized there's probably a ticking time bomb there. And my kids cross there to go to Sedgwick, where we have other problems all the time, right? So look, I don't want to say anything negative about the program, but I do know that like in the last year we've called the police department a dozen times because of teenagers going down to the lake, Woodridge Lake, and fishing illegally or trespassing. They were trespassing in our backyards, and they don't go slow, they go fast. So I think there's a lot of places where like there's a demand for something like the cameras. And I think actually thinking of the cameras as a way to slow people down, to Dwayne, Mr. Martin's point, where you can't do something else like put a raised crosswalk, because you can't put a raised crosswalk where Waterside is across the street to nowhere, right? Like it's a jog. I think having on the agenda, at least in a future agenda, recognizing those sort of blind places where people naturally go fast and the speed limit might be artificially low but not enforced at that speed is worth thinking of. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your input. Speaker?
Okay. Good evening. My name is Ron LaCour, and I live on Sobey Drive, just off of Hunter. And I apologize, I came in late. You might have already covered this in regard. I got a technical question on the cameras. Do the cameras cover the region, the strip of road, in both directions?
It's one direction only.
So they only point one direction. Are there independent cameras that then cover the other side of the road?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's my only question. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Grant. I live on Meadowbrook Road, which is just down from Boulevard. Anyway, we have like a four-way highway going past our street, and I'm just wondering if we're going to do anything about that, because there's a four-lane highway going right into the middle of town, and I haven't heard anything about that. I know they fixed North Main that way, but so I'm just wondering, are we making any adjustments there? I said no, South Main from Meadowbrook. South Main from Meadowbrook Road is a four-lane highway, basically. Are we making any adjustments from into town to there? You know what I'm saying? It's like 2 lanes going one way, 2 lanes going the other way. It's kind of like a 4-lane highway. You know what you're not following what I'm saying? South Main, on Meadowbrook Road. No, you're not following me.
So, no, I'm sorry. I just had to, I know where it is. It's not far from Town Hall. So South Main Street in that area is part of our center infrastructure master plan,
Yeah,
and
I
we
haven't
looked at that.
Okay.
So
I haven't seen anything, I guess
it's
maybe.
not finalized just yet. We're almost done, but our consultant, not the consultant here tonight, a different consultant, did look at that along with other roadways in the center, and they are going to give us some ideas for that. But just so you know, that we are looking at potentially doing a road diet or some changes, even with the Unity Green in the center area there of town off South Main Street.
Okay.
So we need to explore options, but the idea was finish LaSalle Road, then Farmington Avenue in the center, and then we would come up with a project for
I'm
that.
a walker, and I walk through there, and every time, all those, it's people going so fast through there, and right where my turn there, it's quite a curve. And every time I take a left there, I worry about I'm going to get rear-ended all the time. And it's really hard, but anyway, people go through red lights all the time, and I'm with this woman here. I'm afraid to cross until I see everybody stopped at the traffic lights, because everybody goes through red lights like this all the time, and it's really hard. I've been here for, 37 years, and I've seen it just get worse and worse and worse. And with all the new building, I just feel like it's just going to get so much worse. But thank you. I think this is awesome what you guys are doing, and I hope the red light cameras, stop a lot of this. So thanks. It's awesome.
I just want to comment, follow-up comment on that. So tonight is just about the speed management cameras, but the town is interested in planning on doing red light running cameras. We just have not started that plan yet, but we're trying to get through this first. We will have red light running cameras coming to West Hartford. We have a separate grant for that, but the process is going to be the exact same, and we will have public info meetings, so you'll have an opportunity to learn about that program, and more information on the website when we get to it.
So this is different.
All right, does anybody else have any questions or comments? If you do, please feel free to walk up to the mic. Okay. If not, Rick, do you want to say some closing statements?
Thanks, Kevin, and thank you all for joining us this evening and sharing your comments and questions. For folks viewing at home, please feel free to reach out to us with questions and comments as well. You can email us at visionzero@westhartfordct.gov. As I said earlier, we're going to be taking some of this information that we're hearing back to our team, as well as information we may hear from folks watching at home. We will finalize a draft of our plan, present it to our Community Planning and Economic Development Committee on September 17th, followed by the Town Council as a whole on September 29th. And at that point, we'll send it off, as I said, to the state and to Federal Highway Administration. And we will finish that plan up as we move through the end of 25, rolling our program out in 26. And as Dwayne said, we will have a red light camera program coming as well following this one. So our goal, as I've said, as our council has said, our mayor, is to make our town safer and change the culture of people driving in West Hartford, and this is one component of that, and we will get there. So thank you all so much for your engagement tonight. Have a great night.